Hello, everyone. How are you doing? It's great to be back with you, and I'm very pleased to be here. So, the subject that I chose for today's talk is success in life and the AI revolution. And, this is a really challenging topic. It's confronted human beings for a long, long time. I've been listening to an audiobook called The History of Philosophy that was written by Bertrand Russell, who is a philosopher, thinker, who is one of my favorite authors ever. I really love and admire Bertrand Russell, and he was. It's an amazing audiobook. Right now, I'm in the midst of going through a lot of the Greek philosophers. You know, these are people who were active in the third or fourth century, fifth century BC, and um, it's pretty fascinating to hear their stories. I think it was it Socrates that died in 399 BC. So it's really great to hear about Protagoras and Pythagoras and Anaximander and all those. So really enjoyable. I love to hear. I actually took a Greek philosophy class when I was in college back at the University of New Mexico. Um, I I appreciate Greek philosophy for what it is, and it is it just represents sort of a turning point in the development of human culture, and at least and it's recorded, which is very convenient. Much of it is lost, of course, to time, but we have scraps of it, and I'm glad we do have what we do. And of course, a lot of philosophers at the time did address the question of what success is in their way. It may have related to questions about meaning or purpose or value, or um, they may have spoken about truth or justice and other subjects relating to values that were important to them. And it's great to hear them talk through the ages. I mean, you have to realize that was like 4,000 years ago. Well, no, not 4,000. That was 2,500 years ago. And so it's impressive that they're able to communicate through such vast time. So the ground I'm walking today is well worn. And in fact, I don't think I'm going to address it like I'm just going to assume that you have your own set of beliefs and that they're perfectly valid. And I imagine you'll assume that I have my beliefs, which are valid as well. And so I want to go beyond that, and just talk about success, how I've been feeling successful in life lately. In fact, so successful, I think in my mind, I I think I'm more successful than I think I dreamed I could have ever been, which is really another way of saying I had some pretty low expectations. But it turns out, and I think no matter how, I think I have a personality trait that makes how I feel basically um, sort of required or predetermined in some ways. And that is that I am very accepting of my life situation, surprisingly accepting. And and I think that it's not what's kind of interesting is for me, success in life is less about the things that I obtain and the milestones, whether it's material or spiritual or psychological. But I think it has more to do with my attitude towards success than whatever it is I think I'm successful at, whatever actions or beliefs those are. It's really about, I think my my belief that I'm successful has more to do with just how accepting I am of my current circumstance. And I think that has very little to do about whether, like, in reality, I'm successful or not. And that's why I don't care to have the conversation about what merits success. Because I guess what I'm saying is I'm devaluing its importance. Um, and I'm really attributing importance to something else, which is a personality trait called acceptance. And well, first of all, let me just say how grateful I am that I don't have to compete with other people or jockey with others in this world, which is rife with limitation and challenge, injustice, and yet in the midst of all that, and in the midst of all of the scarcity, including scarcity around like housing or um, money or time or whatever, even peace, that I can somehow be fine with what I have and be willing to accept more of the same old stuff and be content. So, yeah. So I think especially as I grow older, it's more about contentment and peace and my ability to get there from wherever I am than what I've actually done. And I'm lucky to not only know this now in at my ripe old age, but also I kind of knew this subconsciously, um, from the beginning for a lot of times. Now that doesn't mean that every time I was very content. That's certainly not true. There have been times when I've been um, unaware and ineffective, at least judgmental, self-critical, and in some areas I continue to be so. But overall, yeah, I'm really glad about how things are turning out, and I'm excited for what the next 50 years will bring. In some respects, I think we live in arguably the most exciting time in human history right now. I know that's an amazing claim to make. The most exciting time in history right now. Yeah, I my argument for that is that this time that we're in right now is bracketed by two really important movements. One, cultural movements. Number one is the AI revolution, which just began. I mean, of course, we've had AI for many, many years now, and we've played with AI for decades, clearly. And we're finally able to get some traction just in the last few years, certainly with the transforms that were created. And yeah, that's one of the things, one of the brackets. The other bracket is climate change and um, how it's going to be necessary for, if our planet is to remain habitable, for us to um, do something about the climate situation and all the greenhouse gases that we've been emitting, more than just carbon dioxide, um, and getting those under control. So we're really in a place of amazing change and amazing potential. I mean, these two forces, the AI revolution and climate change, sort of coupled with one another, there's this is an exciting time, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't imagine any time in human history when it was more exciting than now. Now, I remember hearing from an anthropology standpoint that there was a time when, or an archaeological standpoint, when there was a time when there were maybe just a few hundred human beings alive, and our ancestors survived whatever threat they might have had, and we could tell that through genetic means that 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 there's a was an indicator about how we're all so tightly related, every human on the planet. And yeah, so there was like a bottleneck of sorts. And so I'm sure that was a very exciting time to be a human. Whatever happened, say on the east coast of Africa, when the human population was essentially decimated and only a few hundred survived, that was definitely an exciting time. Um, there were a few other exciting times, like when fire was first tamed, or when you know really when metal was first discovered, tools were first used. Um, you know, I think the AI revolution might outstrip those as being significant achievements, and because I really don't think the world's going to be the same. So, yeah, the point I wanted to make about this AI revolution is that it could go either way. I know I've heard arguments either way about how either AI will create this amazing world of technology where all your wildest dreams come true, or AI will go rogue and essentially destroy everyone on the planet. And how the funny thing is, we can't tell. Like at this moment in time, it's not clear which path uh, the human the human rate the human the human race will take. And I actually subscribe to that. I think it's not entirely clear what direction AI will take us. It is clearly a tool that is simultaneously um, amazing and threatening. It is also, you know, and that's just how powerful it is. I think it's even a more powerful idea than nuclear weapons or biotechnology. Yeah, it's definitely up there with one of the most groundbreaking discoveries we've ever had as humans, and grateful to be alive when this time is happening. So, yeah, that's definitely going to demand some change on the part of our cultures. We're even in as little as 3 years, I have a feeling there's going to be huge change in culture and the way people do business, the way we interact, and our systems of trade, systems of justice, medicine, education. It's all going to really start shifting, and start shifting rapidly. There's the other aspect that I mentioned. We're bookended also by climate change, which is also a huge event. I'm currently reading a book called The Sixth Extinction, where it documents all of the prior extinctions, or just sort of in the context of our current extinction that's going on right now, where we're losing a lot of biodiversity on account of the rising temperature on the earth and ocean acidification. And this is a serious challenge because for many years, about easily like 125, 150 years, and even longer, we've just been burning things. Our culture's been burning things. We love to burn things. If there's anything that humans love to do, it's we love fire. There are people who love driving in their cars, and they love getting on motorcycles, anything with an internal combustion engine, right? We love we love all kinds of things that are related to fire. Um, I mean, wow. I mean, it's just fire is just hypnotic to us. We love campfires. I mean, we cook every day with fire. Um, the fire is such an important part of our lives, but fire is also this combustion process, which we have gotten so much pleasure from ever since we began to control fire. I don't know how many millennia ago. Fire is such a problem now, and the emissions from fire is such a problem that there are calls for us to stop burning stuff, to stop, use drastically less combustion. I mean, it's going to be a huge cultural shift for us to basically stop using fire. Someone is telling us now, and it's a signal from nature that says stop burning stuff. And we love to burn our hydrocarbons. We love to burn wood. We just love to burn everything. So much of our lives are wrapped up into burning things in this whole combustion process, this whole oxidation. And I don't know if we're going to be able to stop. I mean, there are people, it's kind of analogous to like going vegan, right? Or becoming a vegetarian. Everyone in a moment could go vegetarian or go vegan. I mean, theoretically, it's possible, but it's unlikely because human beings have been eating meat for hundreds of thousands of years. And so it's deeply embedded in our culture, even locally. We've got like barbecue um, going on all the time. It's a deep part of our culture to eat meat. And I wouldn't ask anyone to stop eating meat. Even though I've chose to do it myself, I'm just a unique person, you know. And but there are other folks where eating meat is a big part of how they keep themselves healthy. It's a big part of their workout routine. Hey, I understand, and they can have it. They can have it. It's good for them. I'm glad, but I guess I'm drawing this analogy out a little bit too long. But the point is that in just the same way, people are having a hard time giving up meat if they had to, say. Um, People are going to have a really hard time giving up combustion. Our culture, a lot of people build their personalities around travel. Their whole personality is about going from one point to another point. Um, and, you know, to get rid of these of burning fossil fuels or any fuel in particular, it's going to be a real challenge. I mean, our entire transportation system, much of our economy is built on trade of these hydrocarbon systems. Um, it's a huge ask. And here's the problem. Here's the real problem. There's actually very little time to do anything about it. I think I remember some statistics relating to climate change, how we need to change our ways basically by 2100. I mean, we need to be well on our way by 2100. By the time we get to 2100, if I mean, it would be impossible for, say, life to continue in the oceans because of ocean acidification if we're continuing to put more carbon dioxide in the air, because the carbon dioxide, when it dissolves in the ocean water, turns the water more acidic. I mean, essentially, by 2100, the ocean will be done if we keep on burning stuff. So and it's already like 2025. So we've only got 75 years to basically pull a U-turn when it comes to combustion, which is not a lot of time. I mean, it's not a lot of time. I mean, before we know it, 25 years is going to speed by. And I mean, I mean, it takes us a good 10 years just to build a nuclear power plant. I'm just that's just a guess, because I don't know how we're going to find alternative energy sources that will substitute for all the energy that we get from mechanical and electrical energy that we get from combustion. I don't quite know how we're going to do that. I mean, 75 years is not a lot of time to turn the Titanic around. It just isn't a lot of time. But thankfully, we have AI in our back pocket. It's pretty smart right now, and it can help us out a lot when it comes to making big transitions like this. You know, every Fortune 500 company is definitely going to have to reconsider. Every government is going to have to reconsider the question of whether we want this planet to continue to be habitable. And if we do, there's going to be significant investment, on the order of $200 trillion to make it happen. I mean, if you want a habitable planet, in the next 75 years, we're going to have to spend at least 200 trillion bucks, at least. And uh, it's kind of funny how, that's just the way human beings think. I think it's funny that we relate the cost to keeping the planet alive to dollars and cents. I mean, that in a way is kind of humorous because having a planet is infinitely valuable. I know. It's like, well, we have this amazing opportunity to trade $200 trillion for an infinity amount of value. And people are balking at it. It's like, wait, so we get to trade $200 trillion for an infinity of money? Yes, that's exactly what's happening. But we've got to give up 200 trillion. People are second guessing themselves in the whole problem. Are you sure we've got to give up 200 trillion? Oh, I think it's hilarious. And it's also terribly sad. And it's only for some, it's that kind of equation. That's the resolving themselves to accepting those kind of numbers. Is the only way we're going to get out of this, and that's actually a tough hurdle for a lot of people to jump. And one thing I'm actually kind of fond of saying in my own mind is that human beings are poor in general. We're still scraping by. There are a lot of people who just aren't making it very well in the world. The world is a tough place to live right now. Economically, it is a serious challenge for a lot of people, and my heart goes out to every single one of those people. It is hard out there. It is harsh. It is harsh in many ways, and we're all in the same boat. And as human beings, we struggle, and we just, I remember growing up as a boy. I still had neighbors who didn't have indoor plumbing. There were people who had outhouses, people who were making their baths, where they would bathe their entire family in the living room, in tubs in the living room. They would get water from the sink, and then they would heat up the water on their fireplace, and then use that heated water to make the water warm for their bathtub in the middle of the living room. That wasn't that long ago when that was true. That was like 40 years ago. And I'm sure there are a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure there's many people who are living who still don't have indoor plumbing, particularly also around the world. I mean, I'm talking about a first world nation that's fully developed, and people are still struggling, particularly with healthcare in the state that it is. A lot of people have medical debt, and they're challenged and struggling with medical debt. That's a normal, natural thing, at least where I am. And yeah, so we're all kind of poor. We're all still kind of poor. We're all still kind of just getting along in the world. We all, the thing that wanted to mention was that I, I am fond of saying that we've all sort of been traumatized by poverty and by, I think we all have been traumatized by it. We're always looking for sales, right? We're always wanting the better deal. And if somehow things cost something, we might have a visceral reaction against paying it. And it's normal and natural for people who've been traumatized by scarcity. And if there's anything that could traumatize someone, it is scarcity. Scarcity is traumatizing, something that you want very badly and can't get no matter what. I think even as children, we're all kind of traumatized by scarcity. It starts at a very young age. And yeah, I think I think the world is still poverty stricken in some respects. There was a time that countries used to battle each other for land, and they still do, of course, certainly. That's an example. Going to war for land is an example of being traumatized by poverty. um, there are people who engage in violence because, well, they don't have the things that they want, and they engage in the violence in an attempt to get them. That is a reaction to being traumatized by scarcity of one thing or another. And we definitely don't live in a Star Trek type world where everything is available to us in the moment. And that's it's kind of funny how, and it's not funny, but it's ironic. It's ironic how this problem of scarcity and the trauma surrounding it impacts how we respond to things like uh, the COVID, the COVID, uh, you know, COVID virus. How we all kind of respond to problems relating to health, problems relating to scarcity that pop up. Like, you know, a lot of people have a visceral reaction against anything that takes away their freedom or whatever. Again, I think that's kind of a traumatizing. There's some trauma there, you know, and a lot of the reason that those rules are made that sort of keep us from, it's trauma. Our economic systems are very much responses to trauma, and I'm overgeneralizing, of course. I'm trying to make sense of why many people balk at spending money to save the planet. I'm trying to understand it, and that's one of my explanations, and it's been serving me pretty well so far. When it comes to people traumatized by scarcity, um, you know, so what I'm, wise behavior becomes tough to take, tough to make. It's tough to make decisions that are in your long-term self-interest when you're battling these demons inside of your head that have been around for a long time, and they're just part of being human. It is part of being human. Human beings have been dealing with scarcity for millennia, and we're actually really good at dealing with scarcity. Very often, we're quite good, and we come up with systems and processes if we are able to survive whatever that scarce situation was, whether it's problems with access to water or access to food or access to clothing or access to shelter. We've done a pretty good job over the last few thousand years to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, creating economic systems that create fair and just systems for distribution. Yeah, on the edges, those systems don't work so well, and a lot of people get harmed by them. And we haven't figured out any logical way around that, regrettably. A lot of the time, these financial systems, they just don't work for everyone. There are people with personality traits or developmental disabilities who just can't participate in these systems of exchange that we've set up. So they're not all inclusive. In general, they help us all out, but they have their limitations, that's for sure. And one of their limitations relates to saving the planet in the midst of climate change. Anyway, like I said, I'm just trying to understand it. So, yeah, here we are at a historical moment bookended by artificial intelligence and climate change. So, we are in a crucible, ladies and gentlemen. Um, the heat is being turned up in our crucible, and rate of reaction is increasing. Yeah. What's the equation that relates to rate of reaction? It's something something momentum. No, it's like Arrhenius's equation or something like that. Is it Arrhenius equation? The Arrhenius equation? It's a chemistry equation, and it relates temperature to the rate of reaction. So anyway, the metaphorical temperature is really high, and it's going to get higher. And so that is why I'm saying that this is a very exciting time to live in the world. It's so exciting. There's going to be so much tumult. In the next 5 years, things are going to ramp up fast. And at least in my view, and I guess what you can do is you can take that as like an appointment to check in 5 years from now. Let's see, it's 2024 right now, so 5 years from now would be 2029. And so, yeah, if you're curious to know if my prediction is true, if my forecast is true, then hold on to your horses, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see how things change over the next 5 years. Now, I am also not one to be a person who puts a lot of faith in forecasting the future. I have seen, I've experienced times when, and I predicted what the future might be, even just a week or a month or a year into the future, and have been terribly wrong. It happens quite often still. And so I'm definitely a big believer in that pretty much anything can happen, and anything can turn a person's life upside down and shift things. So I'm definitely not a fan of being able to predict the future. I don't think anyone's an oracle out there and knows what's going to happen. I mean, just like what destroyed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, there could be another meteor strike the Earth, or there could be another supernova in a nearby star and wipe us out. We could have planet-sized object just breeze by our solar system and throw all of our planets out of kilter. It doesn't take much. It wouldn't take much to throw things out of kilter pretty good. What I'm talking about is a philosophical point. It's I'm talking about a philosophical point that was maintained by David Hume. It's the problem of induction. And when you when you're related, I'm a person who's pretty much rooted in science, and so when it comes to cause and effect, because we've got this problem of induction, we can only we can't prove causality, but what we can do is through intelligent thinking, we can make probable assumptions about what might happen, have probable theories. That unfortunately that problem of induction sort of gets in the way. so that we just don't have knowledge. There's certain aspects of knowledge we don't have access to. So yeah, and the future is a special bird anyway. It's an odd bird because the future is in many respects unknowable. There are probabilities. People run like Monte Carlo method type computations, um, or even um, like finite element analysis and things like this to sort of use analytic methods to figure out what the future is going to be. But they're the best guesses that are sort of bound by probability and statistics. Yeah, we do our best. And there's another thing that clouds are our ability to foretell the future too. And it goes beyond the problem of induction. Um, it's the pesky fact that the future doesn't exist yet. I think it's a pesky fact that the future doesn't exist. What a problem. And there is a general principle of knowledge. I guess it's in the field of epistemology, illuminated by the early Greeks, that you can't know anything about something that doesn't exist. Oh, what a problem is that? Yes, you can't know anything about things that don't exist. Unicorns are a good example. So, what can you truly know about real unicorns? Well, of course, you can say that you know things about stories about unicorns, um, about unicorns through as they've been expressed in fictional stories throughout history, and you can get really, really detailed knowledge about that. But you won't be able to get any knowledge at all about real unicorns because real unicorns don't exist. So, that's a serious limitation to our understanding, or serious limitation to knowledge about the future. Because the future doesn't exist, we just can't know about it. Now, that doesn't prevent people from making up stories about what the future will be. And in fact, every individual kind of has to make up stories about what they think the future will be. And thankfully, we can still do that, and with some probability, get pretty accurate, but we can't really have what I would call knowledge about the future. So, like, I don't know what's going to happen with this climate change stuff. And I don't know what's going to happen relating to the AI revolution. It's definitely an exciting time in the present. We definitely have knowledge about the present. And funny thing is, in many respects, the past doesn't exist either. I know. Um, and so, if you use the same principle, we can't fully know about the past either, because it's somewhat ephemeral. The present is real, definitely concrete, but the past, once it's gone, it's so ephemeral. I mean, there are concrete items that are are basically artifacts that we can find, and we can get to know those artifacts pretty well and piece the artifacts together from a probable standpoint. But the longer something doesn't exist, the less of a grasp we have in terms of our potential to understand it and know it with much certainty. Case in point, the Greek philosophers. Anyway, I just wanted to check in, talk a little bit about success, talk a little bit about the AI revolution, also talk a little bit about climate change. And I just wanted to thank you for coming along with me as I discuss these items. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day today and wonderful weekend. And I'm glad to be with you here on our third Rock from the Sun. as we travel around and as we travel together on this cosmic boat. All right. Talk to you later. Bye bye.